Welcome everyone to another Telehealth Today weekly Monday morning meeting. Before we get started, I'd like to just say thank you to all of our foreign soldiers on this Memorial Day here in America. And we are grateful for you and the place that we have to live in, partly because of you guys. With that being said, I have a special guest today, life coach, healer. I'm going to let her tell you all the things she can do, but she is a special person, my friend, and she is a practitioner on Telehealth Today. And if you book with her, she's going to tell you what you can expect and what you can get from her. So without any further ado, I introduce Brettney Perr. The stage is yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, James. Also, first off, thank you for creating this platform. Thank you to creating Telehealth Today. I know the backstory about that platform and doing this journey with you as you've been building this space for people to seek services, support, and help for their daily lives on demand immediately and get the support that they really need from people that they can trust. So thank you first and foremost for that. And this being Memorial Day, I also send my thanks to our soldiers, our fallen soldiers. I have friends and family who are in service, and just much gratitude to everybody who has or is currently serving, and to those that we've lost while in service. I just want to start and open up this session. We're going to run it more like a session. It'll be like a bridge between a talk and a session. So feel free to participate in the comfort of your own home. Even though we're not directly interacting, I'm going to give you some activities to join in on so that you can feel like you're a part of this and not just watching someone talk at you. And to start this off, I just want to get everybody in their space and present within themselves. So as long as you're not driving or doing something else, feel free to just adjust yourself in your seat. Feel really comfortable just sitting down and take in a deep breath. Shake it out a little bit, just so you can feel more present. And if you can, if it's safe to do, feel free to close your eyes. Take in a deep breath. Hold at the top for a count of 3, 2, 1, and release to a count of 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you're breathing out, just feel any of the cares, concerns, worries, any stress from the day, just feel that kind of melt off of your shoulders and down into the ground. We're going to do a second breath exactly like the first. Take in a deep breath. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Release to 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you breathe out, just feel more of that stress, more of that stuff that you just need to get off your back. Just feel it just melt away as you relax in your seat. We're going to do one more breath. Same as the first two. Take in a deep breath. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Release for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just feel relaxed. And as you remain with your eyes closed, feeling relaxed, just feel a sense of safety and security. If you are able to close your eyes, you are in a safe space to close your eyes, which means you are okay. Whatever circumstances you are dealing with, whatever cares, concerns, worries, just know that you are safe and secure. Know that you are safe in this space, that you are able to sit down, that you are able to take these deep breaths, that you are safe and secure enough to close your eyes, that you are in a safe space, that you don't have to worry that we're suddenly going to fly off into the atmosphere something is holding you here firmly in your seat to the ground. And that in itself is a safe space. So we're going to come out of this with just a deep breath, released with a nice long sigh. Taking that deep breath and sigh it out. And welcome back to the space as you open your eyes. So that's just a little taste of getting into a different mindset, shifting your way of being. Oftentimes I find we go online and we are just inundated with the doom, gloom, fears, worries, stress, just all of this information that doesn't really do us any good. And a lot of times, if you're not seeking things to help your life move forward in a positive way, things to keep you feeling safe, secure, and grounded, you're just going to get inundated, overwhelmed, and overstimulated with the things that are not actually serving and supporting you. And honestly, this is how a lot of media works. It works to keep you hooked on, because the more hooked on you are, the more you can be advertised to, the more easily manipulated you are, the more you're providing attention to their platforms. So they really do rely on you to be in a state of fear, or what I call low-grade trauma. And really just want to help support people in getting off of the trauma addictions, understanding more of who they authentically are, so that you're not sitting here manipulated, dealing with insecurities all over in your life, dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety and fear that you really don't need, and it actually impacts your health in a very negative way. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I do a lot of different things. I am one of those people that has a plethora of experience. I have learned from life. So it's not something that I've picked up in a book. As a matter of fact, when I pick up books nowadays, I'm like, oh yeah, I've already discovered that. Why am I reading this book? But I do find things that I enjoy in books and still review them, because that is part of my personal growth process. But a lot of the things that I've learned and done in life, I've learned through direct experience, direct actionable experience. So when it comes to understanding the fear and the mechanisms of marketing and social media, it's because I've worked in marketing to understand that these are things that a lot of coaches are taught. I've also been trained as a coach in multiple different aspects. They literally want to hook you in through your fears. That is a direct marketing tactic. So it does take time to work through this and really connect with yourself to understand what is it that you really want or need or want to go to in your life. What is your journey? And a lot of that journey is going to be the healing process of healing these things that maybe a parent unintentionally put upon you, or maybe a teacher. Say you had great parents, a teacher might have put you down in some way, not intending to, but not really being mindful of the different needs of individuals. So the healing journey is a process. It is not the destination, because you'll be healing from different things throughout your lifetime. And with that stated, don't be afraid to pursue healing. There's a lot of people that are like, therapy is this, therapy is on this political party. I don't need that. And we all need therapy at some point, or a support system if therapy hasn't worked for you. or if you don't have access to a good therapist, which granted, you have a platform that is built just for this, but some people don't like therapists, sometimes coaches, a more hands-on person is more necessary for you. Or sometimes it's just someone to listen to you as you vent or someone to get advice from. There's a lot of different reasons why a platform like telehealth makes sense. But coming back to understanding you a little more, I'm going to do another actionable exercise. And this one is directly helping you to connect and understand how trauma, how fear impacts you in your daily life and how you might be acting in this state. So since we have more people on, I'm going to do the bear in the room exercise. And I know there's been a fabulous question recently on social media within regards to a bear, but we're going to put that to the side right now and do this exercise. So let's say you were attacked by a bear, or you witnessed someone attacked by a bear when you were a kid. And now every time someone says bear, I want you to say bear. With those who are here on the Zoom, if you would say that with me, that would be great. Back in the past, you witnessed someone attacked by a bear, or you yourself were attacked by a bear. Right now, when I said that word a couple of times, you would want to shout bear. Now, let's say you're watching a movie and someone says, oh, that bear bar over there. Your brain shouting bear, right? And if you're playing along, you'd be shouting bear at this point. So bear in mind, again, bear, that word jumps out at you. That there will be these occurrences of trauma that you will have to bear. Once again, your brain is shouting bear. You're focusing on the word bear. At this point, if you're paying attention, you're focusing on finding that word. So we're going to stop the experiment now. You don't need to shout bear anymore. And this is the mind dealing with trauma. Every time your brain has been through a traumatic situation that has not been healed or dealt with, there's many modalities to heal and deal with these situations. But when your mind has not dealt with it or come to terms with the situation, it is going to scream at you every time that trigger, which in this case, the word bear was the trigger word. Every time that trigger, whether visual or auditory or sensory in some way, shape, or form, every time you are sitting there on pins and needles, waiting to hear that. And once you hear or sense it or perceive it in some way, shape, or form, it jumps out at you and it takes over your space. It takes over your mind. It takes over your experience. And this is what trauma is. When you're going out in society, there's some trigger words that people might unintentionally speak, and that'll send you into feeling frustrated, upset, angry, all sorts of different emotions. And these emotions obviously are connected to fight or flight responses. So what are fight or flight responses? Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn are the ones that people are not really connected with. But when someone goes into, let's say, road rage, or they start yelling at you, or they come across as very antagonistic, hostile, doing straw man arguments or projections, they're dealing with a fight or flight response. That is actually a fight response. Flight, obviously, run away, get out of the situation, have nothing to do with it, ghost, go silent. That's a flight response. freeze response is you're just a deer in the headlights. You are unable to move. Your processing just shuts down. You're just like, done, can't do anything. And then there is the fawn response, where it's more of a people pleasing. It's that Stockholm syndrome. It is where oftentimes, unfortunately, people begin to associate with those who are not so good for them or doing not so good things. So that is a rundown of the fight or flight response and how it can be actionable in life and how we need to see it a little differently from what we feel like is actually happening, or getting sucked into a person's scenario in these ways. So just know sometimes it is more of a fear-based mechanism than anything else. Actually, most often it is a fear-based mechanism. It takes a little bit to start connecting yourself with that. And this is the next exercise that I usually do to connect people with that. Now, this is a breathing exercise. And if you have any heart issues, if you have any breathing issues, you might want to not participate in this so much. So just be careful if you start feeling like you're going to pass out, if you're feeling too dizzy, feel free to stop at any time. Okay. So please be mindful of this. As a disclaimer, I am not at fault if you stand to pass out or anything. Do not do this while driving, obviously, but manage yourself appropriately. Do not participate in this exercise if you have any concerns with breathing or heart conditions. So right now, I'm going to take us into a breathing exercise to simulate a little bit of our physiological responses to fear. Right now, just start breathing in and out rapidly. And the reason why we do that is because when we get in a fear state, we start breathing in and out really rapidly. Our heartbeat goes up. We start hyperventilating a little bit. So right now you can pull off on that. Check in how you are feeling within this breathing exercise. You feeling a little lightheaded, a little dizzy? Is your thought process getting a little murky? So now we're going to go back into the breathing exercise that we started with today. We're going to take in a deep breath to a count of 3, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, breathe out to 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to do it again. Breathe into 3, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, breathe out to 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. And one more time, breathe into 3, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, and out to 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now you should be in more of a relaxed, more of a Zen state. Because when we go through those experiences of fight or flight, as humans, we don't take ourselves out of that. So we went through the process of what it feels like in that state, how it co-opts our mind, how it co-opts our thinking, and then how to quickly, efficiently, and effectively get out of that state through breath work. But that takes managing and being in connection with your body, knowing that, okay, my heart rate's going up. I'm probably need to take a break from this and then come back and respond to this scenario a little later, if that's possible. Or maybe it's a state of, I need to take in a deep breath before I do anything silly, reacting out of anger, or just taking in those deep breaths when you can get to a safe space to do. Oftentimes, you'll see videos of animals, they'll deal with a scary situation, then what do they do afterwards? They shake themselves off and then go on with their life. So this is the equivalent of that. But first, we need to connect with the fact of what we're dealing with. A lot of people are not connected within feeling that sensation of anger or upset or sadness or discontent rising up, but our bodies do react, even if you are not super connected with your emotions. Paying attention to that is huge in getting yourself back to balance, feeling more grounded, and being able to move on with your life. So, what does it feel like? And then the way to get out of that. So, this is just a little snippet of what I can do within supporting people who are dealing with very trying situations. I often support a lot of, excuse me, I support a lot of single moms. I've helped stood by people while they're dealing with court cases. I'm not an attorney. I don't help people in that way, but if you are working with an attorney, I can support you in working with that attorney to support your case. And I've also supported several people through domestic violence situations, helping them to get resources, at least here in California, Southern California specifically, and then being able to reground themselves and reorient themselves out of that trauma state, because it's not fun to deal with. And I have experienced that myself enough to be able to step into this position in a knowledgeable way and a way of understanding. Also, within the scenario of things, especially when it comes to domestic violence, reconnecting with who you are is huge. A lot of times in those situations and scenarios where you're dealing with a lot of fear, we lose ourselves. We lose our sense of purpose. We don't have effective, efficient boundaries set up. And understanding boundaries is, a boundary is not something you place on someone else. A boundary is something you are able to enact on. So if I tell James, hey, James, never talk to me again, and I do nothing on my end, which I would never do. James is amazing. But he could text me whenever he wants. So I would have to take the step to be like, sorry, I'm going to have to block you if this isn't going to work out. So that's a way of setting a boundary that is efficient and effective. With my daughter, because I have a daughter, instead of putting her in timeout, which isn't something I can really easily act on, I was like, I need to go into a timeout because I'm dealing with a lot of stress and frustration within this situation. So those are ways that you can set actionable boundaries. It's not about controlling someone else. It's about what you can actually control and then doing something about it. And being mindful of not creating more harm in the long run, and being the person that you want to be, and then moving forward into that space, taking actionable steps into that space. Coming back to understanding your identity, I'm going to do a few quick things you can do to begin to understand yourself more and set applicable boundaries. First one is really hone in on your likes and dislikes. If, let's say, you're in a relationship, or actually, let's just say you're dating right now or attempting to date. I know it's challenging. But when you go out there, are you encountering the same type of people? Are you seeing these same sort of scenarios play out in a different way with a different person, but it's always the same thing at the end of it? Are you noticing other familiar things that you don't like? That is a sign to invert what it is that is not working. So trace it back. Where was the first sign of this sort of behavior displayed? And then connect that also with your past. Has this sort of behavior reminded you of something that happened years prior? Has it reminded you of something that's happened in your childhood? So now that is connected, start seeing a little bit of those red flags that kind of show up. Okay, there's this behavior that I'm starting to see is like this. So you're seeing these patterns of behaviors. Now you're tracking back, okay, where does this behavior actually start? Where did it originate within my ability to spot this behavior? And now connect that behavior with a value. So let's say someone is not, you feel like you're disrespected in some way, like you're not being heard. And maybe this started in your childhood, like one of your parents would never listen to you or that sort of thing, or people would constantly misconstrue how you're speaking. Sometimes it is a feedback mechanism. So just acknowledge that sometimes there's feedback around that. Sometimes there's always things that we get to improve on. But when you're looking at your value system, obviously respect is probably one of your values. Someone to respect you enough to hear you or ask questions to understand where you're coming from. Now, granted, we don't want to put the work or everything on someone else. We get to do some of the work ourselves. And if that is shifting our perspective to understand, hey, not everybody's going to be like that person. There are plenty of other people out there that don't repeat these patterns. Or sometimes it could be, okay, am I doing something to encourage this pattern to happen? If you are a people pleaser, that is going to create a pattern of people walking all over you because of that people pleasing mechanism. So understand that there's a twofold behavior component within that. When you do the work yourself, on yourself, you can then begin to really clarify and see, okay, what is it that I get to work on? What is it that I'm seeing in them that I find familiar that I should not be pursuing anymore? And that comes down to your values. So within the scenario, the value of respect is probably one of your key values. If that's something that has played out over and over again and you feel disrespected. So it's going to be an inversion. Or if you feel like you're being taken for granted, gratitude might be one of your values. So this is something to play with, explore, and really be mindful of, especially when something comes up that starts to frustrate you or trigger you. Start thinking back, okay, take a break, get yourself out of that state, reorient your mind, and then trace that trigger back to where it started. And then connect it with, okay, it started here. I felt this way. I want this. And usually that is your value. So maybe it's honesty, integrity, follow through. It can be a lot of different things, but find the top 5 or 6 values. Now, once you have those values established and very clear, sometimes they can shift. Sometimes they'll change. Maybe as you get older, it might be enlightenment might become more of a value, or joy might become more of a value. So really highlight on those and really pay attention to when they change over time. Another thing with your values is clarify them. Some values, like, let's say, love, is very vague. There are some languages that have different words for different types or different expressions of love. So what does love mean to you? Now, if that answer is, I don't know what love means to me, what you get to do is write down what love is not, because you likely know what it is not for you. Then you get to invert that. So let's say love is not being taken for granted. So that means love is being in a space of gratitude for each other. Let's do another example. Love is not feeling disrespected. Love is respecting each other and making sure to listen to each other. Be very clear on your values and what that means. Like, really unpack it, really go in deep. Take the time to either journal or meditate on it. If you don't journal, make sure that you are able to commit this to your memory. Now that you've really dialed in on your value system, the next step is employing it for you. So, coming back to that dating scenario, when you are out on a date, start paying attention. Is this person reflecting my value system, or are they reflecting values that might not work for me? Give the person a bit of a chance, especially if you've had a lot of challenges within dating and relationships. Give the person a chance with a second date, unless it goes really horrifically wrong and you need to run away, which sometimes does happen. But give them a second chance to not be in an anxiety state, and for you to feel a little more relaxed and to get another reading on, are they actually reflecting values or are they not? And if they are not reflecting at least your top 3 values, they probably aren't a good person for you. And at that point, it is okay to say, I just don't think we're values aligned, but I appreciate the time with you. And that is a great way to not only let someone down in a diplomatic way, but you are supporting yourself by understanding very quickly, is this person aligned with me or are they not? And hopefully that helps you within a broader scope of understanding fear mechanisms, how to clear out fear mechanisms, how to connect with at least your value system, and how to dial in and employ your values system in your life. So I'm going to wrap that up and open it up for questions.
Okay, I will start. Thank you. That was very good. I was actually listening to an accelerator this morning talk about startups and what is needed from founders. And they said, they actually referenced a book, EQ versus IQ. And they said emotional intelligence a lot of times can be more valuable than an IQ, than being smart, because you come through situations where it's a must, and knowledge and book knowledge isn't always going to get you there. And I really liked how you touched on self-awareness, because knowing who you are is simply preparation for the future. The more grounded you are in who you are and knowing who you are, the less anyone else is going to be able to take you off track or anywhere you don't want to go. So that is extremely valuable, and I thank you for it. So I just had just 2 easy questions. The first one, if someone needs help identifying their 3 top values, as you said, would you recommend the backwards exercise that you referenced with love? Like, what, in other words, if they don't know what they love the most, do you ask them what they dislike the most and then you go opposite of it? Is that like a good way to identify their top 3 values?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's actually what I've worked through with a lot of a diverse array of clients. Sometimes it is a little challenging for some people because, especially for people pleasers, your brain will trick you to get distracted or cheat on the experience a little bit. If you find, okay, this is not working or something's wrong, or I'm finding I'm getting distracted, sometimes it helps to do the exercise with someone. And I offer my services on helping people to step through that, because a lot of times, sometimes, not all the time, but people tend to not be so connected with them, as I mentioned, with the people pleasers, which I was one. So if you've been in a narcissistic type of, or a person, been with a person who has narcissistic traits, a lot of times there's going to be those issues of people pleasing, disconnected with yourself, and ultimately like running away from looking at or shining a spotlight on these things, because self-trust has been so erased within that. So if you're codependent as well, it's going to be more challenging, and probably better to work through it with me directly or with someone who can support you.
Yeah, thank you. And that actually led perfectly into my next question, which was, and I know it's probably different for every person, but basically, how long is who's the people that are going to go through it quickly, and who's the people that are going to go through it more, and like a ballpark on how long someone would go through this process of, and honestly, this is a lifelong journey, right? We're never there. We can always improve on ourselves. But what would you say relative to time that you can actually make an impact and help someone's life?
Usually within a first session of at least 30 minutes to 40 minutes, as long as the person will commit to doing the exercises for at least a week straight, they'll have a breakthrough. Now, it's not going to be like everything's great and it's fine and it's fixed. No, a lot of the stuff, you have habits. So that's why I really highlighted actionable steps, things that you do, because there's going to have to be a lot of doing. And it's like taking that movement, taking that step, and not criticizing how big or small, not comparing the size of those steps, and giving yourself the grace to do it. So it really, sometimes within the first session, immediate results for a small issue, not the overarching larger issue, but for the small issue, definitely people tend to get results on the first session. Now, sometimes that can be one session that I do. It's actually a 3-hour session over two. It's 3 hours over 2 sessions, and that is the identity and values sessions that I do. And that, yeah, that takes a while. And then from there, it's a matter of practicing and acting on, like saying, with the boundaries, being able to spot that effectively, being able to spot behaviors that might not be serving or supporting you, that maybe have served and supported you in the past, but are not where you are now in life. And it's time to let those go. Harkening back to, I'm going to really highlight the people pleasing just to keep a through line of understanding for people on these behaviors. So if you are in a relationship with a person who has narcissistic tendencies, people pleasing is going to keep you safe, secure, as happy as possible in that situation. But once you're out of that situation, people pleasing is only going to sabotage you and put you back into that space that you just got out of. So that takes a lot of work with neuroplasticity, that takes work with changing behaviors, changing habits, really being able to establish self-worth, self-trust, self-love, those sorts of dynamics. So that can take a year, 6 months to a year, depending on how quickly a person is able to really shift out of that state and into a new state without having too much thrown at them in their lives.
That's good. Okay, very good. Thank you. Yeah, I've learned that myself, that for every poor characteristic or characteristic about yourself that you want to change, there typically is a false reward, something like you said, security, a false sense of security or whatever that may be. And then just one last thing I'll add, because you said do the work yourself. A lot of people think, oh, if I need to work on myself, that means I was wrong. No, you're always growing, you're always getting better. So even if you're perfect, work on yourself to maintain perfect or to be more perfect. Yeah, no, that's good. And it is valuable for anyone, I do believe, learning about this stuff. So thank you. I'll let someone else have a chance.
Okay. I did want to touch on that though. That's why I established there are these habits that were created to keep you safe in that old space. But now that habit's not supporting you, it's like that needs to change. And it takes work to work through habits. There is a book called Atomic Habits, which I suggest for people if you're not able to jump in and get support immediately, or if you're dealing with whatever you're dealing with, that is a great book and resource to have. That also, obviously, you're going to have to take action on stuff, but it's a great primer on getting into understanding a little more of the dynamics at play and how to shift habits as well. So yeah, it's not a shame, blame, guilt thing. It's a I don't want this to happen again thing. So it's like, what can I do as a preventative care measure, which I feel like we don't touch upon a lot in at least American society, preventative care. Like I always boost my immune system with vitamins. I take a lot of supplements every day. So I really focus on preventative care systems and enacting that so that you do your best to not find yourself in those situations. And it's, I think too many people take it to an extreme of you're at fault for COVID happening. And it's no, let's not go there. Like I can be like, there's a purpose for this, but the purpose is what I create from this. It's not, oh, there's a purpose to everything. And it's like this esoteric thing. And you're like, no, that was a really messed up situation. That's not cool. There's no purpose to it. No, what kind of purpose can I put towards this to make humanity or people's lives better, my community better, my life better, learning from this situation and doing a preventative care measure to ensure that maybe people are taking care of themselves better. Maybe people are connecting with this. We could do this more effectively if we supported each other in this way. So it's being mindful of those situations and just making things better for your life, but not just your life, knowing that you're not going to take or harm anybody else around you. Because if you take or harm someone else around you, what's going to happen then? You're going to create more chaos in your life because people are going to attack you. So it's being mindful of these situations and doing your best in understanding that there's cause and effect, and then doing what you can to ensure that you're creating the best causes out there, period, to ensure that there is the best effect that happens from that cause. Every day we are making choices. Our choices are literally our superpowers. And if you're not mindful of the choices that you're going to make or that you are actively making, even if you don't feel like you're making the choice and you're like, yeah, I wasn't trying to do this, but if you're not trying not to do it, or if you are not doing it, or like you're making a choice in this, whether you're cognizant of it or you're just not being mindful of your actions, you're making choices. And that lack of mindfulness is a choice. So it gets tricky, but I've had this conversation with my daughter recently where she's making choices to not clean up after herself. And I've had to teach her that is a choice to not clean up after yourself. You are making choices to do something else instead of doing this. So it's connecting those dots, and to cycle back on the 4 point, it ties into preventative care. And that is self-care at the end of the day. When you take priority in the care of yourself so that you can show up your best for others. It's that whole scenario of putting on your oxygen mask first so that you can support someone else with their oxygen mask. So yeah. And I also wanted to touch on another point too, since you brought in startups, this is also something else that I support with, because when you're building a company, when you're an entrepreneur, your company, your brand is its own identity. There is no misnomer in the fact that companies are called entities, that they have rights like people. So really connect the dots on these things that do actually play out in society. And it's more of an esoteric point. But when you allow yourself to just reflect on it, it makes more sense. So when you are building a business, have that business identity and that value system in mind for your business. And if you've done a business plan, it's literally right there in the executive summary. What is the purpose of your business? Who are you serving and supporting? What are your values? Value system, right? What is your mission statement? The mission statement is your values and purpose system that you're drawing up so that when you go out in the world, share your product out there, people understand what it is that you're doing, and you keep the company on board, those who you're working with, on board with the alignment of your business. And Mama, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Hi,
Hello.
thank you for the nice presentation, Ms. Brettney. I really enjoyed going through this. I have two questions. First is like how we deal with day-to-day anxiety. If some people around us, they have the issue of getting anxious over small things, how should we deal with them? And the second is, we were talking about business. How about in a workplace? If we have dominating people around us, how should we keep ourselves not getting affected from those toxicities and those people making us feel bad? What strategies we can adopt to protect ourselves from those?
All right. I'm going to start with the business one because that kind of leads into the anxiety part. So
Okay.
when you're dealing with that situation, and it's tricky because to really effectively support you, I would need to know a little bit more about the situation and an understanding of the people that you are dealing with. And a lot of this harkens back to me doing
Yeah,
acting.
it's just if, for example, if there are people around you who want you to do their work and who want you to be blamed for their weaknesses, things like that. Like in a work environment, how do we deal with different and difficult people?
Yes, that gives me a little bit of clarity. Really, it helps me to understand that person's character. So as an actor, something that I've had to do is really create effective, realistic characters. And drawing from that experience, I can really pinpoint, okay, and also drawing from my experience within this, connecting with the subconscious, I can definitely see some of their behaviors or why they do things. And then it's directly addressing that. So usually, and this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, usually there's some need that they need fulfilled. And once you diagnose, or I can't say diagnose, but once you highlight that need, then you can work with them better because you know why they are doing this thing. So maybe it's the higher up is doing the same thing to them, or that's how they grew up, or they're struggling in their family life, so they want to show up as if they're amazing. It could be so many different things. Really, it comes down to trying to find out what's really going on with that person. For example, I don't have much of that sort of scenario within working with a company, although I hear a lot of managers tend to take credit for the work and then poo the person for whatever reason. Sometimes that might end up being a legal issue. So dealing with HR, if HR doesn't effectively address the issue, then it's going directly to a higher up. If the higher up starts acting nefariously, then it's time to hire an attorney, depending on where you're at. I'm not sure where in the world you are at, but there's different steps and different modalities that can be taken appropriately to deal with that situation. If it is a catch-22, then it's really working within leveraging connection and finding out what's really happening with that person and then addressing that. So the closest thing that I have is when I'm on TikTok, I often get trolls or people trying to attack me for whatever reason. And I'm just like, I literally go straight to the point of what they're dealing with. And some people are just like, they just want to feel better about themselves. So it's okay, great. I can see that these sort of behaviors are a feeling of insecurity. I'm sorry you're feeling insecure. I'm here to support if you want help on that situation, because coming after me is not going to solve that. You're actually boosting my platform. So not sure you want to do about that, but I'm here to support things of that nature. And oftentimes they're like, they run away because I've highlighted what their actual responses are, what their actual, it's a way of highlighting their feelings, like, oh, is everything with that type of manager, is everything okay at home? Because I noticed that this is going on and I'm just wondering, don't want to, if it's okay if this is too personal, but is everything okay? And also, I notice you have a hijabi on, so working within the parameters of your religion as well is another layer that is something to be mindful of within that, because I don't want to.
Because sometimes there is lobbying and same nationality people are supporting each other and make others feel left out, and on these things are there. But you are right, they do usually have some insecurities or lack of confidence or these reasons for them to behave that way.
Yeah.
How about the anxiety part?
When it comes to, likely that is engaging anxiety, and anxiety is fear, stress. So it's fear and stress commingled together, and it can be from a modality of reasons. Sometimes it is just like stress, being overwhelmed in certain scenarios, that mind train just going full speed ahead in the worst of directions. So it comes back to that breathing exercise. A lot of times I'll start people on different breathing exercises. For me, people are like, just take a deep breath. And I'm like, just taking a deep breath doesn't do anything for me. Doing that counting breathing exercise is great. You can change the times, but what it is basically patterned with the first two, and then the last one is elongated. So as long as you're breathing out at the last one, breathe in for the same, hold for the same that you breathe in, and then breathe out. You can double it. You can do this for as long as you want, but that is usually a very good breathing exercise that'll help you to get out of that state. Another thing that I do, especially if you're dealing with sleep issues, because anxiety really impacts that and creates a downward spiral to where you can't sleep, you can't eat. Now you're not getting the nutrition that you need for your brain to run optimally. So your brain is stressed and you're doubling down on the anxiety of not having enough because nutrients aren't there. And then not sleeping also doubles down on the anxiety because your body and your brain are not effectively able to get out of a toxic state. Like your brain actually detoxes when you sleep. So that kind of creates a whole cascade of issues, basically. Make sure to do breathing exercises, get good sleep. And if you're not getting good sleep, I literally wrote a book for my clients that were having sleep issues. So I have a variety of supplements in there that people can take and use. And most of those supplements not only treat anxiety, but they are great for boosting your immune system as well. And then there's other things like, how is your space at home? Making sure that your space is in more of a Zen space as much as possible. Have even if it's like a little prayer corner, make sure that is honoring you as you honor worship and prayer. So having these spaces that you can feel safe and secure in. The meditation that I did at the beginning is a good one. And another great way to get like time of stillness is listening to audio meditation. So there's a lot on YouTube that you can find. I highly suggest just listening to them first to make sure that they are aligned with your values and your faith. And then once you review it and you're like, okay, this is good, then start listening to that as much as possible. Overnight meditations are great. But yeah, if people want to reach out to me, I will definitely give people a free copy of my book, and it's called Can I Get Some Sleep? You can also find it on Amazon if you want it immediately. And
Yeah, thank you so much for the detailed answer and many things I can relate. I'm doing the same things in my day-to-day practice with the children because these days they are also coming with anxiety, lack of sleep, and breathing issues. So these breathing exercises do actually help and they feel better.
yeah,
So thank you so much for this detailed answer and this presentation. It's really interesting.
yeah.
I'll
And there's,
definitely look for your book as well.
thank you. Yeah, there's a lot more to consider with also not getting enough sleep and anxiety. So sometimes it can be a nutrient deficiency as well,
Yeah.
but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
and there are. Yeah, it depends. First, we need to diagnose what actually the problem is, and then we go for medications. And I think melatonin is the supplement they give for sleep these days. Yeah.
Yeah. So magnesium, I would start with magnesium first.
Mm-hmm.
Melatonin, use very sparingly because sometimes melatonin
Yeah.
can backfire and cause nightmares. And
Really.
yeah, melatonin can be hit or miss, but magnesium is generally the first
Starting. Yeah.
thing to try out, like boosting magnesium. Don't boost too much magnesium or else you get yeah, might not
Even
have
for
the effect.
hyperactivity, magnesium do really helps a lot for ADHD children when they are started on magnesium. We do have seen good results in them as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, magnesium is one of the ingredients we should be taking care of
Yeah.
in our diet as well.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just wanted to say thanks, and the autogenic breathing exercises were quite refreshing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, last chance for any questions, comments. Okay, I think that is a good place to leave it. I see Michelle. Go ahead. I see you.
Thank you so much
Mhm.
for your advice and your wonderful presentation. Hi, everyone. I was busy here. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Thank
I wasn't sure if you had a question or not. You just wanted to say thank you. So yeah, no worries. Thank you for being here as well. Yeah, so I guess we'll leave it. Everything you do is habit forming. So make an appointment with Brettney to gain more awareness into who you are and what you're going through, and you will create better habits amongst all the other good stuff that she talked about. So thanks again, Brettney, for being here. Thank you all for joining. Wishing everyone, especially in the Americas, a happy holiday, and we will see you guys in a week. Thank you all.
you so much.
Have a good
Bye.
one. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.